Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Amani Hajmashid. I will be your moderator for today, inshallah. I am the current vice president of MINA, and I am located in the Northern Virginia area. This topic is Making Sense of Injustice, a panel discussion on understanding and opposing racial injustice. I am so thankful to the broader Muslim community for really taking time to do so many programs and panels and different things talking about racial injustice during this time. There's a lot going on, a lot happening, and a lot that people want to do. And so, inshallah, for this panel discussion that we have with an arrangement of amazing speakers, this topic is really talking about what can we do? What can we do, and how can we be aware of these injustices happening in our communities? So, inshallah, we're going to be starting this off with a spoken word piece by Zakaria Zaid, who is a current MINA leader from the Mid-Atlantic area. And he is going to, inshallah, start us off with spoken word.
Like Amani said, my name is Zakaria. I'm located in the Washington, D.C. area in Southern Maryland. Inshallah, this piece that I'm about to perform is called Don't Shoot. Fun fact, I wrote it at my first mini camp, which was, I think, around 4 years ago. So, yeah. Bismillah. From outer perceptions to inner reflections, but are we really the ones making connections? We should take less time to desire and more time to admire this beautiful world around us. I ask, why can't we inspire? Inspire our brothers and sisters who've lost their way of life, because now all that brings them happiness now is chaos and strife, but we refuse to fight or give them something to fight for. And now as I'm standing here before you, I'm praying to God that he protect me, because the devil heard I got a message and he's trying to disconnect me. Cops poison the streets with venom, pulling guns out the back of their denim like rest in peace to Alton Sterling. It's like the 60s all over again, man. Why aren't we learning? One black man killed. Like when Zimmerman saw Mr. Martin, apparently he was asking to get shot, but he wasn't from the block, so the charges got dropped. Robbed him of his right to live. Kill a Negro, be a hero. Brother, that's just how it is. But life goes on, because someone's got to be here to tell my son to stay strong and pray long. And someone has to be here to continue this song, because this will all be happening long after I'm gone. Nowadays, our life is measured in the amount of money we claim, but really it's about the love in our heart that's important all the same. So for those boys in blue, sit back and reminisce. And the next time you see me or my brother, I ask you for this. When we go to our knees to beg and plead, when we put our hands to the sky, tears stinging in the back of our eyes, I ask you, don't shoot. I beg you, don't shoot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Zach. I've heard that poem. I believe this has been my third time hearing it, and I've loved it every time. SubhanAllah, thank you so much for that. And I hope everyone can really reflect on his words. Those really spoke to me, alhamdulillah. So after that, we are going to be moving on to introducing our speakers, and then inshallah starting the panel discussion. So our first speaker is Imam Mendez. Imam Adiyinka Mendez, by the grace of God, is a resident scholar and imam at the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, New Jersey, and the co-founder and director of the Garden of Knowledge Academy for Arabic and Islamic Studies. He has also established the African American Healing, Ancestry, and Development, AHED Collective, and the soon-to-be launched Bilal Spiritual Center of Peace, the Arts, and Consciousness. He is a native of Ohio, with Yoruba, Brazilian, and African American ancestry. Upon embracing Islam at the age of 17, following a life-changing journey to Jerusalem, He went on to study history at Morehouse College and Arabic in the Ohio State University, then continued his studies of the classical Islamic sciences, primarily in Syria, Mauritania, Nigeria, and the United States. While Imam Mendes has a background of working with interfaith, intrafaith, academic, permacultural, male rites of passage, and peace-building initiatives, he is particularly passionate about environmental justice, women's empowerment, uplifting African Americans with knowledge of their vast spiritual, intellectual, and socio-cultural legacy, as well as building bridges of peace and healing between people of different faiths and cultures. So thank you so much, Imam Mendes, for joining us. Our next speaker is Brother Jimmy Gardner. Brother Jimmy Gardner is a motivational speaker and advocate. He was born in Dawson, Georgia, and raised in Tampa, Florida, where he was drafted by the Chicago Cubs just after high school graduation. He played with them in the minor leagues for 4 seasons while studying business management at Tampa College during the off-season. His blessed life took an extraordinary turn in 1987 while he was playing with the Charleston Whalers in West Virginia. 2 elderly white women were sexually assaulted by a Black male, and over 140 Black men in the city, including Brother Jimmy, were rounded up by the police. Because there was no forensic evidence connecting him to the crime, and because he did not match the description of the attacker, Brother Jimmy was cleared and went on with his life. 2 years later, Brother Jimmy was back in Tampa, where he was arrested, sent back to West Virginia, and charged with sexual assault, robbery, burglary, and assault. In 1990, after a deeply flawed trial and false testimony by the state forensic expert, he was found not guilty regarding one victim, but guilty regarding the other, despite evidence that the same person committed both crimes. He was sentenced to 110 years. While in prison, Brother Jimmy continued to pursue his education, earning 3 degrees and numerous certificates. He taught himself the law and worked tirelessly to secure his freedom, while serving as a representative for other prisoners during legal proceedings. He also embraced Islam. 27 years after his wrongful conviction, the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of West Virginia held that Brother Jimmy's conviction was a total miscarriage of justice, and Brother Jimmy was released from prison in 2016. A few months later, prosecutors formally dropped all charges against him. Since his release, Brother Jimmy has been an advocate for other wrongfully imprisoned and over-incarcerated men and women. He sees every day as a blessing from God and lives his life to help others attain the spiritual, mental, and physical health that are keys to happiness and success. Thank you so much, Brother Jimmy, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Our last, but not least, is Noor Mohammed. Noor Mohammed is a junior in college. She's a double major pursuing degrees in communications and English at the University of Michigan, Flint. Noor is also a Mina alum and is active in her local community. Through this conversation, she hopes to see an increase in active anti-racism as well as overall awareness. One of her main goals is to emphasize how we all need to commit to educating ourselves so that we can create a change in our own circles of influence. Thank you so much, my Sudanese sister Noor, for joining us. Alhamdulillah. So now I'm going to move on to the questions. And just again, for the attendees to understand a little bit more how this is going to look, we have questions that are pertain to sometimes the whole panel, sometimes individual people. And inshallah, if we're able to get through most of them, we'll open up questions from the attendees. So yes, inshallah. The first question that I have here is actually specifically for Imam Mendes. To just start us off, can you please explain why it's so important for us as Muslims to be well educated about injustices in our society and stand up for others? I'm sorry, you're muted. You're good.
Thank you again for having me. You and your team from the Muslim Youth of North America. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the loving, the compassionate. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. May Allah bless and grant peace to our leader Muhammad and his family and his companions. Wa ala Sadatina Adam wa Nuh wa Ibrahim wa Musa wa Isa ibn Maryam ومن بينهم من النبيين والمرسلين صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم أجمعين. And we ask Allah in the beginning of this to also bless our leader Muhammad and his family and his companions, and Adam and Noah and Abraham and Moses and Jesus Christ, the son of Mary. May Allah's peace be upon all of them and all the prophets and all the messengers, and connect us to them. It's important to understand that all the great men and the woman I just mentioned, Blessed Virgin Mary, they were all committed to justice. And one of the important reasons for Muslims to be concerned about Black Lives Matter, to be concerned about the, not even the reform of the criminal justice system, the overhaul of the criminal justice system here in the United States, is because justice, equity, fairness is a central core principle of the Muslim faith. In fact, what many of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ call the most comprehensive ayah in the Quran, the most comprehensive verse in the Quran, which is in the 16th chapter, Surah Al-Nahl, ayah 91, Allah says, Inna Allah ya'muru bil-adli wal-ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba. Indeed, God commands to justice, to spiritual excellence and beauty, and to generosity with your relatives. And so here, and then Allah says, وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ. And God forbids immorality, indecency, and oppression. And so in this verse of the Quran, it begins, and its beginning exhortation is a command for us to be a community of justice and to forbid oppression. That is central to our Muslim identity. Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, gave us insight into the reality of oppression when he said, Al-dhulm, dhulumat, yawm al-qiyamah, that oppression is darkness on the day of judgment, on judgment day, on the day of standing. And we know from the personal example of Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, that he was always on the side of the weak and the disenfranchised in Arabian society before the advent of his prophethood and afterwards. And so any Muslim who's seeking to emulate the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, God bless him and grant him peace, any Muslim who wants to live a meaningful life should make justice in its pursuit key and central. And this matter, the matter of protecting and safeguarding Black lives in our world, is the justice issue of our time. In fact, I would say that it's more important than any other issue except for faith in God. And Allah knows best.
Thank you so much for that answer. And inshallah, we're going to be moving to our next question. And this question is open for everyone to answer. So specifically about the recent death of George Floyd, a lot of youth have seen this video of his death circulating on social media. For many, it affected us very deeply, and we're still struggling to process our emotions. Do you have any thoughts on how we can understand and make sense of what we've seen? And we'll start this one off with Brother Jimmy.
Thank you, Sister Imani, for having me in this forum. That is a very, very difficult question, and to make sense of it, you can't make sense of it. But I say that, you know, this is a different time, and of course our young youth, they're watching videos, social media, they're seeing everything. As we're back in my day, we didn't have an opportunity to see the injustice and our men and women being killed and slaughtered on the streets. You know, I witnessed it in my neighborhoods in Tampa, Florida, but it wasn't all over the media. The media didn't have the grips with it. So for our young people, you know, I would just advise our young people to never give that hope up. Just keep continuing to keep hope and keep themselves embedded in the Quran and understanding that life is going to be better, and understanding that we as a people are going to be resilient and continue to survive. but we have to be just as diligent as possible in putting ourselves in positions to gain all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of ourselves, our history, being involved in what's happening within our judicial system throughout the country, just being involved and remaining hopeful and understanding that we will survive. And we've been through some atrocious acts as a people, but we must continue to just keep ourselves in the mindset that we will survive, and whatever comes our way, we will be able to handle it. But just keep hope. Never give up that hope. That's my perspective on that. Keep that faith. Keep your hope. I went through 27 years of incarceration, and I just think all praise is due to Allah. I never gave up hope. I never gave up faith. There was not one day that I didn't think I was coming home. That's not one day that I felt like, well, I can't make it today. And I give that praise, all praise due to Allah and my upbringing, being able to reach back to my forefathers, and being able to reach back to my people that raised me and helped me. So I just recommend that individuals do that. Reach out to your imams, the brothers and sisters in the ummah, and stay prayed and faithful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. And your story definitely is such an inspiration in all of this. SubhanAllah. Noor, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way. I don't know if I'm the most qualified to speak, but I'm honored that you guys thought of me. I never watched the video of George Floyd being murdered, because something about having to watch a Black man being murdered by someone who is supposed to serve and protect him didn't sit right with me, and it being circulated all over social media. But I didn't have to see it to believe it. I knew, like, I could believe it from just hearing it. But I think just for youth in general, to take those emotions that you got from the video, that like whirlwind of shock, and convert it into your advocacy and activism, to like, don't just feel it and like sulk in those feelings, perform and have actions follow them. And just also for like non-Black people to understand that this is something that Black people have to fear every single time they leave their house. It's not something new for them. This video like came as a shock to a lot of people, but it's not the first time it's happened, and it's probably not the last. And to just all the things, all the anger and the sadness, to convert that into good energy that you can put into activism and advocacy and changing things, so that change can happen, so it doesn't happen again.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Imam Mendes, would you like to answer this question as well?
I agree with my brother Jimmy. You can't make sense of that video, and I agree with my sister Noor that you don't have to watch the video. It doesn't make you more woke or more conscious to watch the video. You can read the news reports and really get a good idea of what happened. Don't traumatize yourself by watching that video over and over again or sharing it. Don't traumatize others. Don't trigger others. When I was in high school in the 90s, they showed the Rodney King beating. Some of you may be familiar with that. The beating of a unarmed black man by about 12 police officers from the Los Angeles Police Department. That was a defining moment for me, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, that image is kind of etched in my mind. So, number one, you can't make sense of it. Number two, you don't have to watch the video, and I would encourage you, don't share these videos on your social media or in your emails. Thirdly, my dear brothers and sisters, you must realize that we live in a world where Allah, where God, the Creator, has created good and evil. And the good in this world is a lesson for us, and the evil in this world is a lesson for us. The good in this world is a test for us, and the evil in this world is a test for us. The good in this world is an opportunity to use that good to help others, to get closer to God, and to show gratitude.
Yes.
And the evil in the world is another opportunity to get closer to God by speaking out against that evil, by working to bring an end to that evil within Islamically permissible and legal means. And it's a lesson not to replicate the evil yourself. So, this goes into issues of qada and qadar, the preordainment of God's decree. Allah does decree evil, but it's always part of a bigger plan. And so look at and we don't ever wish for any harm to come to anyone, especially George Floyd. But look at what his martyrdom, right? Look at what his murder has sparked. We have protests all around the world. All around the world, on every continent, there are people that are saying enough is enough. This must stop. And so there is a silver lining into what some of us saw. But again, I don't encourage anyone to go out of their way to watch the video. It's a heart-wrenching video.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And thank you so much for your answer. It really helps us segue into our next question. This question is for Brother Jimmy and Imam Mendez. So for youth, it seems like throughout our lifetimes, nothing is really changing. That every time a Black man or woman is killed by police, there are protests and things start to die down after some time without much lasting change. Alhamdulillah, right now, the amount of protests and stuff are honestly the most that I've seen in a long time for an issue like this in my own existence. But there's always the fear that it's gonna end soon. People support the social media posts, all that stuff is gonna die down. And then what are we supposed to do? So based on your own experiences, could you share your perspective on how not to lose hope that things can change?
Yes, I definitely can. Based on my own experiences. And it's amazing I'm being able to ask this question and answer it. Inside, I witnessed 3 individuals killed by officers on the yard with a knee on their necks. And 2 of those individuals were white and 1 was Black. And, it just, I just felt like there was nothing I can do. But as we know, as Muslims, we believe we have to go against it. If we can't go against it physically, we have to go against it inside, internally, go against it in the heart. And if we can't do anything physical, we have to speak out against it if we can. And I just felt so bankrupt watching those instances. And to see the instance out here today, I just knew that I had to continue to go and keep going. I just knew that I had to continue to keep my head above the water and keep my eye on the prize. And I tell people it's so important to make sure your foundation has been laid properly and understand that God will not place a burden upon us greater than we can handle. So whatever we're encountering or going through, we can handle it. But to witness such accounts over and over, it is a test. It is a test. And there will be so many tests presented before you throughout your lives. Some may be greater than others, but you have to keep going. You have to keep your faith. You have to just stay in the Quran. You have to keep reading. Iqra, read, gain knowledge, keep getting information. To be informed is to be forewarned. And as long as you can be in a position to have the tools to protect yourself and help others come up out of a situation and oppression or whatever you may be in and protect themselves, that's where we got to focus on remaining. That's where we got to continue to try to go to. Let nothing man does deter us away from our eyes on the prize. and that is to be the best Muslims we can be on this earth, and inshallah be capable of being in the hereafter.
Ameen. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much.
I think Brother Jimmy said it all. You know, his life, you know, may Allah preserve him, and may Allah give him better than what those 30 years that were taken from him being on the outside. May Allah give him better than that in this life, and better than that in the hereafter. But I think his story and his face. I mean, anyone who's looked at his story and seen the pictures, even the pictures when he was inside, they're full of light. And brothers and sisters, that's the power of faith. That's the power of Iman. Iman is not just a class you take at your masjid on Saturday or Sunday. It's not an Aqidah course. It's a living reality of trust with God. And you need trust in order to fight this fight.
Yes.
You need trust and faith in order to play the long game, because the people that are working to make this a world of darkness, a world of ignorance, a world of oppression and injustice, of exploitation, they know how to play the long game.
Yes.
They think 50 years ahead. They think 500 years ahead. They have plans. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, especially those of you who are in college or high school, it's important to know that real change, systemic change, changing the system will not happen overnight.
No.
It will not happen. Usually, real change begins after 40 years. Okay? So you have to look at this as a marathon. It's not a sprint. And our actions need to build on the good work that's been done in the cause of justice by the generations before us. We shouldn't be doing less than those who came before us. Like that shirt, that t-shirt that was really popular a year or two ago, I am not my ancestors. I don't like that shirt. We need to build on what our ancestors did, the good they did. And if our ancestors made mistakes, we need to learn from those mistakes and not repeat them. But you are your ancestors. You have their DNA in you.
Yes.
Their accomplishments and their mistakes make you who you are, right?
Yes.
And so, number one, realize that you have to be committed to this for the long haul. And who you marry, the way you raise your children, the institutions you build, the masajid, the hospitals, the schools, everything you do needs to have this. You have to put at the front of your planning and your strategy. You know what? We want to establish something that is going to take this movement forward for this generation. So don't lose hope. We each have our place to play in this. It's like a relay race. We each have our leg to run. And whatever you do with a sound intention, and we should always be asking Allah, asking the Creator to rectify our intentions. Whatever you do, even if you don't reach the finish line in this race, it will be rewarded by Allah. And you will find His reward in this life as well as in the next life.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So, inshallah, our next question is for Noor. So right now, many youth are turning to social media to express frustration or to demand change. However, using social media as the only way of activism can be problematic in many ways. Examples of everyone posting the video of George Floyd's death, thinking that this was a form of activism and a way to really speak up about this, deemed very harmful to a lot of Black people who were following different people and stuff like that, having to see that over and over and over. So can you share some things youth should be careful about when turning to social media for activism, especially regarding this issue?
Yeah, I think the idea of it being problematic is that it all seems very performative. Like you're just posting things, especially on Instagram when you're reposting things on your stories, but you're not really looking at it. You're not really signing those petitions, you're not doing it with the right intent or like with your heart. And I think that the most important thing, first of all, is to make sure that you're like what you're saying is being matched in real life. Like if you're sharing a link to a petition, make sure you sign it before you even think of putting it on your story. If you're able, donate before you share the bail funds. Read everything that you put on your page, on your stories. Make sure you process what you're seeing and you are sharing everything with intent. I'd also say to make sure that you're amplifying Black voices, because now isn't really a time for this movement to be overtaken by non-Black people. It's time for Black leaders to really shine and to share their stories and their voices. And I feel like a lot of times it can be very silencing when people are just talking about their frustration in this situation, specifically when they're not Black, because it doesn't really affect them personally. But I mean, obviously, it's always a good thing to feel outrage and to feel for your brothers and sisters, and make sure that you're fact checking everything. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation being spread around, and it's very easy to kind of engage in that if you're not making sure that you're checking your sources and checking everything that you come from. And also, like they've said before, don't share graphic content. Black people are very tired of seeing people being shot and killed and tear gas at these protests. It's very triggering for a lot of people, and I feel like it's very harmful to spread. And yeah, my biggest thing is just to make sure that you're educating yourself while you're doing it too, that you're not just posting and that's the end of it, that you feel when you post.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think that definitely hits for most of the youth who are watching this. I think especially social media and being quarantined, people really take to social media, and all of it is definitely from a place of wanting to help, but taking your time to really understand what you're doing and understanding the situation before you decide to become a voice for it is definitely the best advice to give right now. So thank you, Noor. I want to go on to this next question that is for everyone. Unfortunately, racism also exists within our own Muslim communities. Do you have ideas of how we can eliminate it, both within our communities and within our homes? And I really want this question. I think this is something that most people who are watching, whether you're Black or you're not, can understand or realize that they might have seen this in their own communities. And sometimes I think an issue is people really identify racism as these really big acts of racial injustice, but they don't look at the things that could be considered more small. Things happening in your masjid. It doesn't even have to be speaking to someone, the way people act around certain people and stuff like that. So really, I want you guys to really delve deep into this question, and we can start off with Imam Mendez.
Well, there's been racism in the Muslim community since the time of Prophet Muhammad. God bless him and grant him peace. A lot of times we look at the early community, the Salaf, Salih, the righteous ancestors with rose-colored glasses. We have this romanticized idea, but the truth is that just about every problem we're facing as modern people, you can see its seed in the early community of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is for our benefit, because those problems, Allah gave solutions. And if we really study the Quran, get it off the highest shelf in our home, blow the dust off it, not just read it in the month of Ramadan, but study the Quran, study the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the other prophets, and study the lives of his companions. Their struggles, the mistakes of the companions that were corrected by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are valuable lessons for us. And so I think number one, Muslims need to accept that we are not perfect. A lot of times we hide behind Islam. Islam says that racism is wrong, and we'll hold up Bilal, may Allah be pleased with him, the great Bilal, our master Bilal, as a token, as a mascot for racial equity in Islam, to hide our own shortcomings. That has to stop. Just because you're Muslim doesn't mean that you don't have white supremacy in you, or Arab supremacy in you, or Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi supremacy in you. So number one, we have to stop being in denial. You know, who's on the boards of our masjids? How do we treat Black Muslims in our masjids? Do we just look at them as bodies and charity cases, or do we amplify their voices and learn from them? They have tremendous wealth of experience and knowledge to offer. Number two, we need to have conversations in our masjid facilitated by organizations like Muslim ARC, the Muslim Anti-Racism Coalition. Number three, we need to read books, watch movies, and get involved with a lot of the organizations. Hopefully I'll get to mention some of them later that are doing really good work to address the issue of racism inside our hearts and in our society.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. Brother Jimmy, if you'd like to go next, yeah.
Yes, I will piggyback on Brother Imam on his answer. We definitely need to read and just become more informed and understand that we all seek peace, and we try to follow the Quran and the Sunnah as best we can, and be the best Muslims we can be. And you know, I do different speakings about implicit bias within the judicial process, the attorneys versus clients and judges throughout the judicial process. That same implicit bias is within our ummas, within our brothers and sisters. Individuals may not even recognize when they're committing such acts upon us. So I recommend, like Brother Imam said, studies on it. We have to speak out on it. We have to be able to share our thoughts and views on the matter, and have individuals, our brothers and sisters, be more receptive to the process. You know, instead of saying to themselves, well, I'm not that way, or I don't want to be involved. Yeah, well, let me hear what you got to say. Let's see if there is something. You know, just be more receptive, be capable of having intelligent conversations and respecting one another for your positions. And I believe we're going to be okay.
Thank you so much. Noor?
I agree with everything they said. I think it's so important to diversify our circles. We can't ever begin to understand something that someone's going through if we've never talked to them or interacted with them. So to expand your circles and to diversify your circles and hear from Black people in your life, classmates, people you see at the masjid, friends, family, just listen to people, especially elders. They have so much knowledge to share with us.
Yes.
And I think, like, it may sound kind of repetitive, but education really is key through the Quran, through the Sunnah, through and any novels you have. I mean, we have the internet, like the whole world is at our fingertips. There's so many Black authors that have so much to say that we can read from. Just like from a simple Google search, you can find a ton of books on topics like police brutality and mass incarceration. And I mean, reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, if you haven't, reading the new Jim Crow, start with those, I'd say, and like kind of build off of that. And I think that also it's important. I feel like when it comes to family, a lot of times people are scared to say anything with their parents because they don't want to seem disrespectful when their parents say something racist. But I think there is a way to respectfully talk to your parents about what they've said and kind of try to teach them to unlearn the racist thoughts they have or biases they have, and sit down and just have an honest, respectful conversation with the people in your lives. I think that it's really important to start in your home and then go out, because that's your biggest influence. Your circle of influence is right in your house.
Mhm.
Could I add something, Amani?
For sure.
If Noor's finished.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, you know, I've served at different masajid over the years, and what I've noticed with a lot of the brothers and sisters who are African American, who experience racism, anti-black bigotry in the masjid, a lot of times they keep it to themselves, and either because they don't want to make a scene, or they don't want to embarrass anyone, or sometimes it's too painful. It's too painful. Many of them came into Islam expecting a community, a multicultural, multi-ethnic community that would judge them, that would not judge them based on the color of their skin. And many of them are deeply disappointed. So I want to just say, if you are out there and you're listening to this, you're seeing this, and that's happened to you, talk to your imam, talk to your chaplain, talk to the board of the masjid, write an email, document the case. And if they won't listen to you, talk to an imam or a chaplain or, your, Muslim youth organization at another masjid. Just keep, talking until you find someone who will listen to you and do something about it. Don't sweep it under the rug, because otherwise our community will not improve. We won't change, and that hurts all of us.
100%. Yeah, thank you so much for all of your answers to this question. Moving on with some more practical advice. With COVID and also the risk of arrest or getting hurt, a lot of people aren't comfortable going to the protests that are happening right now. So what are some other practical ways youth can help advance justice, both right now and in the future? And we can start with Brother Jimmy if you'd like.
Yeah, this is unprecedented times, and for our brothers and sisters that are out protesting and just being a part of this movement, trying to get justice and equality, please protect yourselves. Please protect yourselves. Wear your face guards, your mask. Be cognizant that this 6 to 12 feet distancing that we're keeping is real. I'm in Albany, Georgia, and this is like the 4th highest place for hotspot for COVID-19 in the world. Albany, Georgia. And I've seen so many friends and people on Leadership Albany with me, Leadership Georgia, this and that. A lot of different friends and family members come down with COVID and die. Some die. This is no joke. We have to continue to be cognizant of what is happening and not get too caught up in the mindset that, okay, I'm out here fighting for justice for a person, but you have to be capable of living to see tomorrow, keeping yourself healthy and in good position in order for the fight to go on. If you're unhealthy, you can't help anyone. And that was something I always just told myself inside, I'm not doing anything to jeopardize my health. And I tell, this is for the young people out there, guard your body, protect your body. No illicit drugs, no illicit sex, no drinking, no types of putting anything in your bodies that can harm you. Nothing that can take you out of your normal state of being. Staying healthy. Alhamdulillah, I'll be 54 years old here in a few weeks. Alhamdulillah, and feel 25. But it is so beautiful.
25.
But it is so beautiful because Allah enabled me to sustain. When people would laugh at me because I had mayonnaise in my hair, and because I would have calamine lotion on my face, and I would walk around with gloves on my hands, and I played basketball and different sports in long sleeves and turtlenecks. People would laugh at me like, man, you're overboard with things. No, it is about protecting yourself and keeping your eye on the prize. Every day I said, inshallah, I'm going to make it home. inshallah, please help me get home healthy. To come home unhealthy, you can't really do anything for anyone else. You gotta first and foremost take care of yourself. And I say that to the individuals out there, our young brothers and sisters, continue to be vigilant and continue to be diligent in going out and protesting and doing things we can do. And I say the bigger protest, get your family members to get involved in this census. This census 2020 is important. And get your family members to go vote. These are ways of changing the diagram of what's happening out in here. We have judges being appointed that federal judges are going to be with a lifetime appointment for the next 30 years or so. Mm-hmm. These elections that are upcoming are so important. The appointments of individuals. We need to be cognizant that every move matters. Get out and vote. Protect yourself. Get out and vote. Get your fathers, your mothers, your brothers and sisters to get involved in census. We need to be a part of this. This is where the game has changed at, in voting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So true, alhamdulillah. Noor?
I think that if you can't go out to a protest, like you said before, like if you can't do something physically, at least speak out with your tongue and feel it in your heart. So make sure that you're using your voice, that because you have a voice to share and if you have a platform, you have a social media account, that is a platform. Make sure you're sharing with your family, with your friends, and educating yourself and everyone around you, and urging them to take action. Like you said, participate in the census, voting. Like these things seem little, but they're very, very big. And they're really important. And post about it as much as you can. Like just spread the word. And even if you can't donate, I saw people started to do, like, if they can draw, they'll draw something for someone and they pay them and they'll donate all the proceeds they get, or writing poems for people and donating the proceeds. Like just anything you can do to help will help. All the little things do count. And if you can't physically be at a protest for health reasons or for safety reasons, there's still so much you can do. Don't feel like discouraged and like, I can't really, like, I'm not making a change, because there are multiple other ways you can make a change. And it starts, like I said earlier, in your own house and educating yourself and others and sharing all the information you get and making sure that this isn't just a social media hype and that it doesn't die down, mm-hmm. and that you keep caring after this.
Mm-hmm. So true. Imam Mendes?
Yes, brothers and sisters, first of all, know that protesting is not for everybody. That's number one. And number two, you should only be protesting if you can be safe. And, you know, Brother Jimmy talked about your health, but I want to emphasize your physical safety from assault. And a lot of these protests, you know, yes, we've seen pictures and videos of some police officers with good hearts who are prophetic in their character, who are taking a knee, even marching with the protesters. But we've also seen some videos of some devils in human form, as Allah calls them in the Quran, shayateen min al-ins, who are provoking and instigating and attacking peaceful protesters, people who are on their knees. And so you have to be very careful. Don't expose yourselves to danger. Don't expose yourselves to harm. Yes. There are other ways to protest if you can't be certain that the police that are around you are there to actually protect and serve. We also have white racist nationalist groups that are infiltrating some of these marches and protests, who won't bat an eye, who won't think twice about harming you or me. So be very careful. Have a plan. If there's some kind of, you know, stampede, if you're trapped in by police, make sure your parents, your friends know where you are. have some kind of, there's so many apps now that, let people know where you are located. Don't just go in there blindly because your friends are going, right? Or to prove a point that you're woke. The second thing is, the last point I want to make is that there are many ways to protest besides going out into the streets. Protest the racism, the white supremacy that's in your own mind and heart. Mm-hmm. We are all like fish in an ocean. There's no way you're not going to get wet. We live in a world, a society that's built, its very foundations are built on anti-Black, anti-Native American, anti-Indigenous racism. And if you don't know anything about the history of the Native American people, if you don't know anything about African Americans, their history here, 500-year history here, and their history before that, because every Black person in America didn't come on slave ships. There were many that were here before Columbus was discovered by the Native Americans. If you don't know that history, that's a symptom that you've been affected and infected by the virus of not COVID-19, but of white supremacy. Yeah. So protest that. Protest, as Noor and Brother Jimmy said, the white supremacy that's in your home, right? This many of us who come from immigrant families, and my father was an immigrant, like you, Amani. My father is an immigrant from Nigeria, but my mother is from Louisiana. She's African American. A lot of immigrants come here with this model minority idea of aspiration, white aspiration. They want nothing more than to be Afro-Saxon, right? And so we have to raise our aspirations to be, like Brother Jimmy said, Muslims. Protest racism in your masjid, in your mosque, in your workplace, in your school, in your organizations, in your city council, in your neighborhoods. There are so many opportunities to speak out and let your voice be heard, not just in the streets.
Thank you so much for all of your answers. Just thinking about that, for an example, my family recently just went to a car rally that was at a government building. Everyone was in their cars. There was a program. So definitely research to see what's happening in your communities. That doesn't really involve going in big crowds or anything like that. And this time there's really creative ways of how to protest and to get involved, alhamdulillah. And then I just want to also quickly say something that Imam Mendes said that really sat with me is really know the history. My grandmother, I love her so much. She told me this phrase. She was like, I don't want anyone to talk to me about this until they know our history. Go back to the 1600s, learn what happened, and then come talk to me about this. And I think that's really important because a lot of times, especially people who are growing up in the United States, really stick to the little bit that they learned about Malcolm X in like elementary school, or MLK, or Ruby Bridges, or Rosa Parks. And sometimes people's minds really perceive that the history of, I guess, like just the hardship of the Black community really started around then, but it's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And that ways that people have been combating it, this isn't the first time that we stood up against injustice. So really take your time to understand what people have done, the sacrifices people have made. So I think that's really important. Before we move on to our next question, I just want to remind anyone who's tuning in, if you have any questions for the panel, you can comment them. And then inshallah, if we have any time after we continue the rest of the questions, we'll move on to questions from the audience. The next one I have is, many youth are now going into high school and college and starting to really think about what they want to accomplish in their lives. A lot of people have this idea that they want to change the world, to make an impact in their communities, but it's hard sometimes to really believe that whatever educational, professional path we take will actually make a difference. The difference we're seeking, especially when we think about long-standing issues that haven't gone away despite the efforts of many people. Can you share your thoughts on that? And this question is for Imam Mendes and Brother Jimmy, whoever would like to start.
Yeah, Brother Jimmy, please go ahead.
Oh, shukran. I would like to tell our young people that you can't change the world. We just don't have that. We don't have that type of power, to change the world. But maybe, if we just continue to stay focused on areas of emphasis that we are concentrating on, and whatever that may be, maybe it can be an influence to help change the world piece by piece. You just can't expect. Make sure your expectations are in a good place and are rational. Because there's a lot that is existing in our world today, and it's going to continue to exist. As individuals must realize, you can't change a people until a people decide to change themselves. So we need to just focus on staying resilient, staying focused and determined to be the best individuals that we can be, and do our very, very best to continue to give all praise to Allah and keep ourselves in line with what we know is right. Keeping ourselves in positions to make good choices and get good consequences from those choices. And I tell I'm so proud of our young brothers and sisters out there today, because they're showing out. They're showing out by the thousands, the hundreds of thousands. And I say that our young folks today are some of the brightest and most courageous and most humble individuals that have walked the face of this earth. Yes. And we see you. We just don't go on with all the reports from TV, all the negative reports and different types of information being presented. No, we see the positive. We see you. We hear you. Continue to stay on that good path, and don't get caught up in senselessness. Don't get caught up and get taken out of the fray and out of the just of everything you're focused on and striving towards. Continue to keep yourself focused. Continue to keep yourself on the straight path, and know that you will be rewarded. All the good you do, alhamdulillah, it's not gonna be for naught. No good deed done for the sake of pleasing Allah is ever done for naught. It's never lost. It will be for good. So continue to do good. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Imam Mendes?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, and I think imams are partially responsible. We give people the idea that you can only really change the world, so to speak, which Brother Jimmy, beautifully and powerfully explained is unrealistic. By being a great Muslim scholar or a great Muslim da'i or a great Muslim philanthropist, right? You either have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of money, and that's just not true. You can change the world just in your sphere of influence.
That's it.
In your home, like Sister Noor said. And Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, he didn't travel all around the world. No. He focused on his hometown, Mecca, the noble city of Mecca. And when his own people, his cousins, his uncles, his aunts started to plot to kill him, he left. And he migrated to Medina, right? Yathrib, that later became Medina Munawwara, the illuminated city. And he focused on that city. And he focused on the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought to him in that city. And he gave them his time, his attention, his love. He mentored them. He coached them. He served them. And those people, the approximately 100, according to some Muslim historians, there were only about 145,000 companions. Mm-hmm. About 10,000 of them lived and died in Medina. Mm-hmm. But those people who he touched, He touched their minds. He touched their hearts. They changed the world. So focus on the people around you. A lot of times, because of social media and growing up with the internet, we think that we're responsible for changing what's happening on the other side of the planet. Focus on your city. And I guarantee you, whatever city you live in,
Yes.
whether you're in Herndon or Falls Church or DC or Albany, or when we were in Atlanta, we used to call it Albany, Georgia, or if you live in West Windsor, New Jersey, study the history of your city. Study the politics and the economics and the social dynamics of your city, and you'll find there are opportunities for you to make a difference in your institutions, in your school, in your workplace. And then the second and the third thing I wanted to quickly mention is whatever profession you go into, if you decide to be a lawyer, a doctor, if you decide to go into a trade as a carpenter or electrician, or you decide to be an entrepreneur, whatever way you decide to earn money, to earn a livelihood, make sure your money is halal tayyib. Inna Allah tayyib wa la yaqbalu illa tayyiba. Allah is pure, and He only accepts what is pure. So get a profession that doesn't hurt you, doesn't hurt your family, doesn't hurt or exploit any human beings, and does not hurt the planet. Make good halal money, and then take that money, brothers and sisters, and donate it to organizations and institutions that are making a change. Donate your time. There are many organizations that need lawyers and free healthcare and so on and so forth. So use your profession to help the activists, right? And you'll see that you'll get a lot of blessing, a lot of reward, and you'll make a big difference that way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
We are going to move into our last question, and then we're going to open it up for any questions from the audience. So what more can we do to keep learning about these issues once the protests and social media posts die down? And I want to just elaborate a little bit more on that. Noor, for instance, gave some examples of books, different ways to really understand the world around us, and specifically these issues that have been a part of the Black community for such a long time. This is open to anyone to really answer and give their advice.
I'll let Noor speak on that.
I would just say, kind of keep the same energy, I guess. I feel like people there's so much hype right now. I don't like using the word hype because this isn't this isn't a party. That's just not what it is, but there's so much attention right now on it and so much energy. So keep that in you. And I think the way to do that is to continuously have conversations. And we have conversations most of the times with people we feel very comfortable with. So maybe try to challenge yourself and talk to someone who may not hold the same beliefs as you. Learn something from them and let them learn from you as well, and try to change their minds and open their eyes to what's going on. If you don't like reading, there's tons of documentaries, tons of shows now about anything you want to know. There's 13th, there's When They See Us. Just go open Netflix if you don't want to read a book. It's that simple now. And yeah, I just say if you haven't already, sit down with your family, with your friends, with someone who you think doesn't fully get it, and ask them what they think about what's going on and why they think that, and have a really honest and vulnerable conversation with them about it.
Thank you for that, Noor.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
No, please. No, go ahead, Brother Jimmy, please.
Oh, shukran. Yeah, I piggyback what Noor said exactly. Just being capable of having the conversation and being respectful to the other viewpoints. I can just recall having a mindset when I first went in the institution, and even up until the year 2008, and I went in 1989. And I remember having the mindset that my position was was greater than anyone else's. I had the most knowledge, the most information. And I went into a residential substance abuse and treatment program. And one of my LEs was I had to stand on the line for like over 2 hours with my hands behind my back. And I couldn't say one word. And I had to listen to between 15 to 20 individuals tell me what they thought about me. And I had to really hear it and embrace it and not try to defend it. And that was an awakening for me. And I tell this story because I want people to know this was in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And I had been in prison at that point already 21 years or 20 years. And my mindset was like the brother Imam said, we don't want money that's not good money. We don't want blood money. But my mindset wasn't totally against that 20 years being in until I changed my mind, until I got that knowledge and wisdom from all 15 to 20 of those individuals telling me, Jamal, we think you're this way. We think you're that way. You think you're superior in your position because you have a little education. You think you're this because you're from Tampa, Florida, and we're from the mountains, or we're from West Virginia. And I really heard it. And I recognized at that time, everyone matters. All voices matter. We all are in this together. And I had to just change that thought process and let individuals know you are worthy. You are worthy. And I take what you said as valid. And I thank you for sharing it with me. And I'll do my very best to change the presentation that I presented, the way that I presented myself. And it's done a world of difference for me. So I encourage everyone to embrace change, to be willing to have a conversation and be willing to listen and grow through the conversation. And if it applies, let it apply. But if it doesn't, you can let it fly. But have the conversation. Be open-minded. Give the respect to the other party. Thank you.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Imam Mendes.
Yeah, so I shared a couple links with the organizers that have a list of books, movies, organizations that are tremendous resources for becoming an anti-racism activist. What I would say, my dear brothers and sisters, is that it's not enough to not be racist. I invite you to become an anti-racist.
Yes.
Become an anti-racist. What's an anti-racist? It's not just someone who says, I don't have a problem with people of different colors, or I'm colorblind, which is another problem, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran that there are signs. Allah says that in our al-sina, in our languages, and our alwan, and our colors, are signs of Allah. Each color of humanity is a sign of Allah. It's an ayah. And if you're blind, if you're colorblind, you can't see the signs. If you're colorblind, you can't read the signs. If you're colorblind, you can't see the beauty of the rainbow. And human beings are a beautiful rainbow. And so read these resources, study them. There's a list I made. There's documentaries that Noor mentioned, 13th, I believe, When They See Us. Those are on Netflix. Watch those. The Central Park 5, whose story is very similar to Brother Jimmy. These are 5 young black men who were wrongfully convicted for something they did not do. Yeah. And it tells their story, and their exoneration. The movie Roots, right? Read the book. Many of you, I know you read Harry Potter, so you're used to reading 800-page books. Read Roots, by Alex Haley. It will blow your mind. And if you don't have the time or the energy to read Roots, at least watch the movie. But no, the movie doesn't even do justice to the book. It's like watching Malcolm X, the movie, and not reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. do one or the other, but know that the books, you can't replace the books. Watch Eyes on the Prize. It's a great documentary. Watch African American Lives by Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Yes.
Watch Great African Civilizations by Henry Louis Gates Jr. Because you need to know that the history of Black people in America did not start with slavery. We are more than ex-slaves. We are more than descendants of former slaves. And fine organizations, there are great organizations out there that you can get involved with. I've already mentioned Muslim ARC, the Muslim Anti-Racism Coalition. There's an organization called National Bail Fund Network that raises bail for protesters. There's Campaign Zero, which is an organization that puts out and works on practical solutions to end police violence. There's the Know Your Rights Camp that teaches Black youth about their rights and has a legal defense fund for their advocacy. So get involved, educate yourself, get involved, and reach out to your brothers and sisters. And the last thing, I know I've been a little long, but the last thing I'll say is our white brothers and sisters, if you're watching this and you are a white American, know that you have a unique responsibility. You have a unique opportunity, because this issue of racism, of white supremacy, is really a white problem. And you are uniquely equipped in this society to speak truth to power, to go to the powers that be, to talk to your family members, to go to the police departments and the colleges, and to really speak out against this. Racism in America will not stop until we have a tipping point, a critical mass of white people who say, we will not let this happen on our watch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to quickly add on that. So I'm actually a film major in college, and I really believe that film, and there's a lot of amazing Black filmmakers out there who right now, actually Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime has been putting up a lot of new stuff, primarily because their June cycle has started. But to have people to have access to these things, 13th and this When They See Us, two amazing films are both on Netflix. I just looked to find that Selma's for free on Amazon right now. Another really great film. So definitely look those up. And then while a lot of these really great books and resources that have been shared, a lot of them that the speakers have shared with us will be posting links to or the names of books and stuff like that on our social media later on. So you can see these resources and really apply them to yourself and take time to really look these up. But also understand that just like Imam Mendes said, there's so much more to our community, to the Black community within the United States. Look up artists, music, poems, understand the culture and the heritage. And something that I really love about the Black community in the United States is we've been through so much, but we've done so many things to keep positivity in our communities, keep ourselves, grounded in our background and our identity, and not to lose hope in that. And I think there's a lot of beauty in looking those things up and stuff like that, and not only looking to find the negative things that have happened or occurred in our community, but I think one of the best things to do is see the positivity and the light. And honestly, I always talk about this with my family of just how blessed we are and how amazing our community really moves forward. My grandmother, my grandparents do genealogy, and they've tracked back family members who are slaves, and we know their names. And my grandma has a deed of like the first house that one of my ancestors bought. And they love to tell us stories about our ancestors who, one of them, her name, I'm so sorry I'm going on a tangent, but I just really wanted to share this. Her name is Marguerite, and she was brought to Louisiana and was raped by her slave owner, and had multiple children of his who are my ancestors. When she was freed, she actually sued him and went to court and won. And my grandparents love to tell me that story, and it just makes me realize we're going through so much right now, and sometimes we're losing hope, but there are small stories and victories within our communities, within our own backgrounds, within people that we know or might have been connected with, that we don't really process or understand the importance of that and the perseverance. So I always think that just delving more into the history and the understanding is one of the best things to do. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. We're gonna open up to questions from the comment section. So we have this one. And any of you are willing to, if you're willing to answer these questions, all three of you do not have to, whoever feels like they're best fit to answer this. For those who, so this question is, for those of us who are not Black, how should we balance posting or sharing things on social media to raise awareness and educate ourselves and other people who may not understand the issues with not wanting to overwhelm our Black brothers and sisters or upset them, and wanting to be sensitive to them with the constant posts on social media?
Yeah, I can begin with this one. Even though you're not Black, you know, racism it's beyond just Blacks. It affects whites also. It affects. It's a trickling effect, and it's not just affecting Black folks. Black folks are being oppressed and placed in positions of impoverishment and what's that? But it's a societal thing. It affects the white folks, the Latino. It affects everyone. So we're all in this together. So individuals need to just recognize and realize that you matter. Your voice matters. The things that you do to go anti, as Brother Imam spoke and said, you just can't be saying I'm against race. You have to be anti-racist. You have to put your position out there, speak your voice. You have to be in a position to be heard. And you have a voice, you have a position. So don't undermine your position and don't think that it doesn't matter and you're different because you're white. No, if you're in the cause of the righteous, if you're on that cause for the call of the righteous and you're doing justifiable work in the area, continue to do that because you're making a change. You are doing something positive to be a part of this positive movement. So continue to do your piece and your side of it. Thank you.
I think I agree in doing that. Using your privilege to do positive work is definitely very important. And I'd say also just make sure as you're sharing to listen to Black people as well while you're doing it, because I mean, this is the Black Lives Matter movement. And like I said earlier, we really want to amplify their voices. It's important for everyone to speak so that the tension kind of stays on this for as long as we can make it stay. But again, with attention, you have to know that it's going to die down, but nothing's really going to change until there's change in the system. And I think if you see something you don't understand, ask.
Yes.
And try to listen to Black people when they're telling you. Don't try to argue. Don't try to start fights. Just try to really understand from the people around you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with posting a lot, just as long as you know what you're posting and you're posting with the right intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say, ask yourself, why am I posting this? Am I posting this to educate, to uplift, or am I just angry and I want other people to be angry? Am I just grieving? Talk to your friends who are African American. If you're not sure whether you should post something, send it to them privately and say, look, I was thinking about posting this and I'm not really sure if this will be constructive. So make sure that's part of, our culture as Muslims. Shawirhum fil amr. Allah says, consult them in the matter.
Mhm.
To further that my position, to share and raise awareness without traumatizing, or with the video. You don't want to traumatize people by sending the video. You don't have to do that. You can share and raise awareness in other ways. Just be mindful. Just be mindful and considerate, and understand that you are in a position to make a positive change, and that's what you're striving to do.
100%. Thank you all so much. So that will conclude our program. I want to just end us off with each speaker giving a closing remark. We can start off with Brother Jimmy, go to Noor, and then Imam Mendez.
Well, I want to just say to all that have been involved in this this wonderful event, this video, having these moments with all of you all has been wonderful. And my closing remarks would be to continue to strive in the way of doing good, and to continue to be the best person that you can be, and be respectful and give back. Give back. My number one thing is giving back. Understanding that in giving back, Allah will bless you bountifully. The more you give, the more you receive. So be free with giving, and be respectful towards others. Put yourselves in the position of others. And if you have and others have not, please be considerate and give. Let's change this world together. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for having me in the first place. I've learned so much from Brother Jimmy and Imam Mendez. I really enjoyed myself. I'd just like to say, like I said before, just emphasizing again, on educating yourself and your family. And if you sit down tonight, literally after this, close this and go talk to your family and say, what do you guys think about the Black Lives Matter movement? Have you heard about what happened to George Floyd? What are your thoughts? And kind of have an honest conversation with them, and to go into the lists that they're going to share on social media. I'm excited to go look at it and see all the books that I can read and all the movies and shows that I can watch. I know that there's a website that I always order my books from, is Thrift Books. Try to find Black-owned bookstores in your area if you can, to get them. And yeah, just make sure that you're trying to learn throughout this entire process, and that you're really honest with yourself and others, and you're listening and amplifying Black voices.
I would echo everything that Brother Jimmy, Jamal, and Sister Noor said. Do your best. Shine. This is your moment. I mean, really, I'm really thankful to Allah that my children are getting to see the protests, getting to see this national, global conversation. There's even a silver lining in that with COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic. People are not distracted. Many of us would be watching the NBA finals right now, right? Instead of protesting, Yeah. And Allah has removed so many distractions, and people's pin-up energy over the last 3, 4, 5 months is being channeled towards this. So, I think one of the highlights of this conversation for me was when Brother Jimmy mentioned how incredible this generation of youth are. And I was talking to a friend of mine. He's Native American from the Ojibwe clan, the Anishinaabe Nation. He lives in Canada, and he was telling me, he said, when Allah, he didn't say Allah, he said when Creator, when the Creator takes fear out of your heart, that's when he starts working through you. And those young people that are out there, that are protesting, that are engaged, that are involved in activism online and on site, he said those young people have no fear. No fear. And that to me, that's the greatest compliment I can give you all. So keep working hard. Study the Quran. Keep your heart close to the Quran. Live the Quran as much as you can. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect to get involved. You don't have to be perfect to make a difference, right? But Allah is calling us to strive, because striving makes us better. And you know, I would I don't know if we have time for the poem I had, but if
Please come.
we
For
do,
sure.
okay. So I'm not gonna read the whole poem because it's long. But a friend of mine, Dr. Oludamini Ogunaike, who's like me and Amani, and you know, part African and part American, he wrote an elegy, which is a poem you write for someone who's passed away, for George Floyd. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's going to be published at sapolosquare.com. Many of you are familiar with Sapolo Square. They amplify Black Muslim voices. Sapolo Square. Of course, Sapolo is the island off the coast of Georgia, where there was a community of about 80 Muslims during the time of slavery that practiced Islam during slavery. So if you haven't visited Sapelo Island, I encourage you to go, especially when the travel and the social distancing gets relaxed. So you should be able to find this on sapolosquare.com in the next week. And I'm just going to read an excerpt. This poem is based on a traditional African Muslim style of writing poems in Arabic, but of course this is in English. Elegy, an elegy for George Floyd. Did lightning just flash from the far northern plains? Or is it thunder crying out with their names? Is it from recalling our beloved slain that tears mix with blood in the hot, heavy rain? Or has the tear gas on the smoked southern breeze brought news of strange fruit from new mace-perfumed trees? Is that dawn in the west or in the midnight firelight? Has the sun finally set on this nightmarish life? Red sky in the morning, old soldiers take warning. You strike a rock and the earth quakes in mourning. The long night withheld its sweet sleep from me. Like grains in my eyes are the bitter killings. His murder made even the driest eyes weep. The heartless of this age ripe with misery. Our tears fell like rain, as vast as the seas, but vanish in their desert sympathy. How then to write for George elegy? My only ink's tears, my paper's burning. My grief has made me a pillar of salt. The waters run out, but the sobs will not halt. On God, I'll mourn you as long as there's talking. As long as the flesh on my bones move with longing. How can I praise you when we cannot breathe? When there are no more words, what words do we need? Bring music, light fires, let them see us bleed. What can we say now except now you fly free? He cried for his dead because the living were deaf. But where were you, God, at his hard last breath? We are closer to him, but you do not see. I was sick, you ain't visit, hungry, nothing to eat, and dying, you choked me till I couldn't breathe. But what of the murderous devil, his knee? Take refuge from all such dark shadows in me. God, your lovers are fine, but your fan club's a mess. And I'm honestly not too sure about the rest. The earth's choked with so much injustice and greed. Where is there left any humanity? What shrouds can we stitch with shreds of decency? Is it only in death that we can be free? There's none like him in life, and there never will be. But in death, he joins a vast company. Ahmed, Briona, Trayvon and Sandra, Philando and Auton, Atatiana, Amadou, Omar and Fatumata, Biko, Cabral, Patrice Lumumba, Brefu, Boukman, Makandal, Dandara, Tamir, Tony, David, Nneka, Asiata, Taki and Jati, Buna, Eliza, Michael and Eric, our mothers and fathers, Huey, Fred, Medgar, and Malcolm and Martin, millions more names lost, but they not forgotten. I'm going to skip down to the end. that ends with a dua, a supplication, brothers and sisters. God, give us the strength and please keep us sane. Please grant us justice and keep us humane. From Oakland to Addis, London to Brisbane, we ask by our best, your mightiest name. Have mercy upon all of our friends slain by poverty, hate, by illness and cane. They're not dead, but living in skies and in our veins. Bless all our mothers and our sisters in pain. Bless our fathers and our brothers in chains. Bless all those who stand with us, not for fame, and grant us a good end, free of any shame. But now we'll still shout and still dance and still sing the desperate joy of the last human beings. Did lightning just flash from the far northern plains? Or is it thunder crying out in our pain? Oludamini Ogunaike. Thank you.
SubhanAllah, that was amazing. And that was such a great way to end. I loved beginning with a poem and ending with one. Thank you all so much for being a part of this panel. This was definitely something that the Minna community really needed as youth. I know personally for me, there was so much happening on social media that I just deleted off my phone for some time, and I just needed some time to really understand what was happening. And this conversation really helped me, and I hope that it helped everyone else who joined. Please keep a lookout on our social media for us posting these references that the panelists so generously shared with us, and to look for any future events regarding this topic or any other topics that Minna is doing during this time. With everything being online, we've been doing a lot of events, whether they are lectures. We have activities for youth during this time if you want to just meet new Muslim youth, make new connections and stuff like this. I think this is the best time to do it. So please stay in tune to everything that we're doing. I'll end us off with Surah Al-Asr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal-Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Thank you, everyone. And I hope everyone has a blessed evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Imam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Jamal. Thank you.